Welcome to the deep dive.
hmm
Today we are diving into Meta Platforms Inc., trying to figure out if their stock is a good buy or not.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, right?
Yeah,
Looking at,
definitely.
not just how they did, but where they're headed.
Exactly. And to do that, we're going to be using a recent financial report
That's
and,
right.
and kind of going over all of the different aspects,
I love the clues.
all the clues, and seeing if it's a buy or not.
What's interesting to me is, everyone wants to look at past performance, right?
Yeah,
But we're really trying to understand what those numbers tell us about the future.
exactly.
What does this mean for Meta going forward? So we'll be looking at, recent earnings, of course, and their
Sure.
AI initiatives and
Of course.
the competitive landscape.
Yeah, let's start with recent performance. So Meta finished 2024 strong. They pulled in $48.4 billion in revenue during Q4.
Okay.
That's a 21% jump compared to the year before.
Wow.
And their net income was $20.8 billion, which works out to $8.22 per share.
Yeah, Q4 was definitely impressive, you know. They exceeded many analyst expectations.
Really?
Yeah, it seems like that strong performance was likely driven by, a combination of things. Robust holiday ad spending,
Makes sense.
potentially some gains, from competitors who might be facing headwinds. But their guidance for Q1 2025 revenue, it did fall short of some projections.
Oh.
So there's a bit of, a little bit of caution among investors.
Okay, so strong finish to the year,
Yeah.
but some clouds on the horizon potentially.
Potentially.
Let's talk about their spending plans because they're projecting expenses between $114 billion to $119 billion and a whopping $60 billion to $65 billion in capital expenditures for 2025.
That's a big number.
It is a very big number.
You're right to point that out. That level of spending is significant, and it's making some analysts nervous.
Yeah, I can see why.
A large portion of this spending is directed towards infrastructure upgrades and AI.
Okay.
Meta is really going all in on AI in these infrastructure investments.
So they're betting big on their future.
They are. Okay.
But it does raise the question of, whether this level of investment is sustainable.
Right.
And will it translate into the returns they're hoping for?
Right.
So it's really, that classic short-term costs versus long-term potential gains.
It's always a gamble, right?
Yeah.
Let's dive a little deeper into this AI focus because it seems like every time I turn around, they're announcing some new AI initiative or partnership.
Yeah, they're all over the place with it.
They're pouring resources into their Llama model, which is open source, and it seems like they are aiming to be one of the major players in AI.
Right. Their goal is to make Meta AI the leading assistant
Wow.
for over 1 billion users by 2025.
Yeah.
They're thinking of, very personalized AI-powered experiences that are highly personalized and can eventually be monetized.
And how are they going to monetize that?
Through features like premium offerings and paid recommendations.
Okay.
It's a very ambitious goal, though,
It is.
especially given, how competitive the AI market is,
Right.
because it is super competitive.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got Alibaba claiming that their AI model is superior to Meta's,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got DeepSeek, this rapidly growing player that's even raising concerns here in the U.S. due to its rapid progress.
Yeah, and that brings up an important question for investors. Can Meta maintain their market share
Yeah.
amidst all this competition,
With all that spending.
especially with all the money they're putting into it?
Yeah. And it's not like the stock is cheap right now either.
Right.
I mean, the current share price is sitting at $689.70, which is a good bit higher than the estimated fair value of $601.94.
Interesting.
So what's driving that discrepancy?
Well, I don't think investors are necessarily overly optimistic.
Okay.
I think that difference between the share price and that estimated fair value, it's probably reflecting some uncertainty about the future.
That makes sense.
Investors are weighing those potential rewards of AI
Right.
against the risks
Okay.
or these aggressive spending plans and the competitive landscape. So yeah, even with the good results in Q4, there's some caution in the air.
Yeah. And we can't forget that Meta has got their hands in a lot of different things.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they've got Reels and Threads, which are expected to grow,
Right.
and their Reality Labs division is still trying to find its footing.
Yeah. You're right. Reels and Threads are potential growth areas,
Absolutely.
but Reality Labs is still operating at a loss.
Yeah. And that always makes investors nervous,
Of course.
right?
Yeah, they're looking for signs of progress
Of course.
in their metaverse endeavors. And then you've got the regulatory challenges
Oh, yeah.
that Meta is facing, especially in the EU and the US.
Yeah. That's not going away anytime soon.
No. And those regulatory headwinds are something that investors are definitely watching.
So Meta's is really at a pivotal point here.
They are.
They're betting big on AI,
Yeah,
but facing a lot of challenges on different fronts.
absolutely.
So what stands out to you
Mm.
as a potential investor here? What's the most crucial piece of the puzzle?
Well, for me, one of the most interesting things about Meta is this bet on personalized AI.
Yeah.
If they can actually deliver on this vision,
Right.
it could change the way we interact with technology
It
and
really will.
potentially give them a big advantage.
Yeah, absolutely.
But of course, there are challenges and risks.
Of
First
course.
all.
There always are.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're going to explore in more detail in part 2 of this deep dive. We'll be back soon to uncover more insights and help you navigate all the complexity of Meta's financials and their plans for the future. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Meta.
So when we left off, we were talking about their move into AI and all the risks and rewards that come with that.
Yeah, and as I was looking through these reports,
Mm-hmm.
one thing that struck me was this disconnect between, Wall Street and Meta's long-term vision.
It's like they're speaking different languages.
Totally different languages. Yeah. What we're seeing here is that clash between Wall Street wanting those quarterly results
Right.
and a company like Meta that's thinking long-term.
Yeah, they're making those big bets on technology that might take years to really, pan out.
Absolutely. And you've got analysts that are nervous about their spending and how it's going to impact their profits right now.
Right.
And then you've got Mark Zuckerberg talking about the metaverse and AI assistance. And
It's a very different perspective.
it's that tension between, the tangible and the aspirational that makes this so interesting.
It really does. It's not just about, the numbers.
Right.
It's about understanding their vision.
Exactly.
Let's talk about those analyst opinions for a minute.
Okay.
Because it seems like they're all over the map.
Yeah.
Some are bullish on Meta, some are bearish.
Yeah. It's hard to tell where the consensus is.
It really is. I mean,
Yeah.
we're seeing price targets ranging from like $583 to $780.
Wow. That's a pretty big range.
That's a huge spread.
It is.
So how do we make sense of that as investors?
Well, that range really highlights the uncertainties surrounding Meta's future.
Right.
The bulls, those who are optimistic about Meta,
Yeah.
they're betting on those AI initiatives really paying off
Makes sense.
and their dominance in social media continuing. They see the potential for growth if Meta can actually do what they're saying they're going to do.
Okay, so what about the bears?
What are they worried about?
Yeah, what are their concerns?
Well, they're worried about those capital expenditures,
Okay.
that fierce competition in the AI market,
Mm.
and the questions about the metaverse.
Yeah, is that ever going to happen?
They see these pitfalls that could really derail Meta's plans.
Right.
So they're not convinced that the rewards are worth the risk.
And then there's the legal and regulatory challenges,
Oh, yeah. You can't forget about those.
especially in the EU and the US.
Yeah, those could have a real impact.
Absolutely.
The regulatory landscape is always shifting,
Always changing.
And Meta is in a space that's getting a lot of attention from regulators.
Yeah, data privacy, antitrust, content moderation.
All big issues.
It's a lot for one company to deal with.
It really is. It's a tough balancing act for them,
Mhm.
They've got to manage all of that while also innovating.
And keeping investors happy.
Right. Exactly.
Well, let's look at their earnings call transcript because there were some interesting things in there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I always find those earnings calls to be really helpful.
Oh, yeah.
You get to hear from the leadership.
Straight from the horse's mouth.
Exactly, and really get a sense of their priorities.
Yeah. One thing that I noticed was the emphasis on those personalized AI experiences.
Oh, interesting.
It's not just about building a generic AI, it's about making something really tailored to the individual.
Right, and in such a crowded market, that's important.
It is.
That could set them apart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they've got a ton of data to work with.
They do.
So they have an advantage there.
But it does bring up questions about data privacy and all that.
Of course.
They need to be careful there.
They do. They also talked about how they plan to monetize Meta AI,
Okay, how are they going to do that?
hinting at, premium offerings and paid recommendations.
Interesting. Do you think people are going to pay for that?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
It is. Will they see the value?
Exactly.
They've got to find that sweet spot.
Yeah, for sure.
What else stood out to you?
Well, they're being very open about their open source approach with Llama.
Right. They think it's going to create a global standard
Exactly.
and potentially, reduce costs.
You maybe get some help from the community.
Exactly. But, there are risks with going open source as well.
Like what?
Well, they've got to be careful about protecting their intellectual property
Right.
and making sure that the quality is good.
Okay, that makes sense.
You're giving up some control,
Yeah.
but you're also getting some benefits.
Trade-offs?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What about Reels and Threads?
Oh, they're very optimistic about those.
Yeah, you are.
Even though Threads is still a long way from hitting that billion-user goal. Yep.
Yeah, it seems like they're all in on the short-form video.
Oh, yeah.
But they also talked about the challenges with Reality Labs.
Still losing money?
Yep.
Investors are getting impatient?
Yeah, I think they need to see some results soon.
Definitely.
They also talked about TikTok.
Oh, yeah. How could you not?
Right, that's a big factor in this whole landscape.
Absolutely.
Putting pressure on everybody.
For sure. It
Yeah.
seems like they know they need to adapt, though.
They do. They talked about developing their own chips and managing those supply chain issues.
So trying to control costs as much as possible.
Exactly. It seems like they are taking steps to mitigate those risks.
Okay, so we've covered a lot here.
We have.
Analyst opinions, their earnings call, and all these factors that are influencing Meta.
It's complex.
It is very complex.
It sounds like you're forming your own assessment.
Yeah, I think so.
Great. Well, as we head into the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to step back and look at the bigger picture. What are those trends that are shaping the entire tech industry?
Yeah, how is that going to impact Meta?
That's what we're going to talk about next.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Meta.
We've covered a lot.
We have. We've gone through their recent performance, their AI plans, the competition they face, the challenges they
That
have.
regulatory landscape, it's a lot.
It is a lot. So as we kind of step back and look at the bigger picture,
Okay.
what are those bigger trends that are shaping the entire tech industry? And how might they affect Meta?
Well, I think the one that we can't ignore is AI.
Of course, it's everywhere.
It really is. And it's only going to become more and more important in the years to come.
Yeah, Meta's trying to be a leader in that space, but they've got some stiff competition.
They do. Companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, they're all investing heavily in AI.
So for Meta to win, they're not just going to have to innovate.
Right.
They're going to have to execute.
They need to show they can actually bring those innovations to market.
And then you've got the growing importance of data privacy and all of the ethical considerations.
Yeah. Consumers are paying attention. They want to know how their data is being used.
And regulators are too.
Absolutely. This is a big one for Meta.
Huge, given their track record.
Right. They've got to be really careful here.
Transparency is key.
It is. If they want to keep users happy and stay out of trouble with the regulators.
Okay, so we've got AI, we've got data privacy, and then there's the metaverse.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That big vision of the future.
That Meta's betting a lot on.
They are. Still early days.
Very early.
A lot of people are skeptical.
Yeah, but you can't deny the potential.
You can't. So the metaverse is a huge gamble for Meta.
It is. They're investing a lot. There are a lot of unknowns.
Are people going to use it?
Right.
Are they going to spend money in these virtual worlds?
And can Meta overcome all the technical and social challenges that come with it?
So looking ahead, there are a lot of unknowns.
There are.
But one thing's for sure, Meta's at a crossroads.
Yeah, the decisions they make over the next few years are going to determine whether they stay on top.
Or become irrelevant.
So the question for you, the listener, is do you believe in Meta?
Do you believe in their vision? Do you think they can pull it off?
We've given you a lot to think about.
We have.
But at the end of the day, the decision to invest or not is up to you.
We're not financial advisors.
Right, this is not financial advice.
We're just trying to give you the information you need.
to make an informed decision.
So if you found this deep dive insightful,
Hit that subscribe button
and the bell icon.
so you don't miss our future deep dives.
We'll be back soon to explore more of the tech world.
Thanks for joining us.
Stay curious.